Hot take, Billy Butcher is worse than Homelander. I know that sounds crazy if you've just watched the show, but the comic book's a thing. So we're really sort of comparing 4 characters here. We're going to be comparing Billy Butcher in the comics, Billy Butcher in the show, Homelander in the comics, Homelander in the show. Really just looking at what Billy does. Now, I prefer the show. I mean, I grew up reading the comics and yeah, every edgy teenager loves the boys. There's just a lot going on in the comics. It's very much a there are no good guys sort of story. And one of the worst guys is the good guy. So to catch everyone up, Homelander, evil, super bad, Superman stand-in, leader of the 7, Vought shill. In comics and in the show, Billy Butcher also pretty much the same in the comics and the show. He was an ex-CIA operative. He's got a grudge against the Supes because, you know, Homelander killed his wife. In the show, didn't actually kill his wife. In the comics, it was actually Black Noir, who's a clone of Homelander. Comic book stuff, but effectively the same character. Has a grudge against the Supes, wants to take him out, and has a group called the Boys that helps him do it. Today, as per usual, I'm going to be breaking down 5 issues from the Boys series. And we're just going to have a little look at how Billy Butcher is in the comics, because if you haven't guessed, I'm not talking about the TV show Billy Butcher being worse than Homelander. It's definitely the comic book version. First issue we're looking at is The Boys issue 38. We pick up this issue and it's fresh after they've saved the female, or Kimiko. Now in the show, yeah, Billy might not have been the nicest. It's Soup and she's savage, but he warms up to Kimiko. He starts to embrace her as part of the team. That dynamic never really exists in the comics, not as true as the show. Within this issue, we have Frenchie translating the female's life. He's going through the female's grandfather's death, her father's death, her mother's negligence, her first kill as a baby, her being locked up, imprisoned and tortured, and then her escape. A traumatic experience, a traumatic life. Just nothing good has happened to Kimiko ever. This would probably warrant empathy. This would probably warrant someone caring. Not Billy. After hearing this tragic origin story, all Butcher can really respond with is, so who's gonna teach it to sit up and beg then? You wanna give it a go? Frenchie has to remind Butcher that this is a human being, not an it. This is a human that can learn and grow past their trauma. Butcher responds with, yeah, but do we really want a human being? I thought what we were after was a fucking killing machine, so we'd win every Barney we got into. There's a back and forth and Butcher doesn't let up. I mean, Frenchie puts his hand up and says, I'll look after it, but Butcher's relationship with Kimiko doesn't really grow much past this point. He always sees the female as the weapon. See, as I said before, the TV version starts to like Kimiko. It sort of softens his anti-Supes movement. He ends up sleeping with Maeve, but whatever. This is a very different Butcher than what we get in the TV show. This guy doesn't care. Now, to compare it to Homelander, they're pretty much on the same plane. I mean, Homelander also doesn't care about his peers. Homelander also doesn't care about Supes. Everyone's just a tool for his mission. And that's fine. Homelander's the villain. Butcher isn't meant to be. We're only on issue 1 out of this video, and we've got Butcher and Homelander at the same level. The next issue we're looking at is issue number 59 of The Boys. Now, to get into this issue, I've got to introduce you to a new character. It's Jack from Jupiter. Now, Jack isn't in the TV show. He's only from the comics. Now, he is part of the 7. He's a main character. I guess maybe in the TV show is replaced by Translucent, who's in 2 episodes or whatever long he's alive for. But Jack from Jupiter has an interesting power. He says a phrase, Harpo, and he becomes indestructible. So sort of like Translucent. Now, Jack's got an issue. He visits brothels a lot, and he's part of the 7. This would be like if the Flash from the Justice League was around sleeping with hookers and that got leaked to the press. That's pretty salacious. That would be world news. In the real world, yeah, the Flash has done some pretty dodgy stuff. As all things in the Boys universe, everything goes wrong. A sex tape is leaked to the public. Now, that means that Jack from Jupiter is probably going to get nixed from the 7. He's probably going to get kicked out. Now, the 7 think that the Boys did this. I'm not going to get into spoilers. We're just going to keep this around Butcher and company, but the Boys didn't leak it. So the 7 go to confront the Boys. It's the Boys and the 7 Their relationship obviously isn't great, but Homelander takes Butcher's side. I mean, he asks him flat out, like, was this you guys? And he can tell that Butcher isn't lying by hearing his heartbeat. With Homelander taking Butcher's side, this leaves Jack super pissed, so he rages out and flies away. Butcher ends up going home, and his dog, Tara, who we don't see much in the show, but we do, he's a main character in the comics up until this point, because Butcher gets home and Tara is dead. Butcher says to the rest of the boys, hey, gotta go, excuse me, gotta see a man about a dog. He leaves no investigation. He doesn't know that Jack did this for sure. He never gives Jack the chance. We don't actually know if Jack killed Tara. It's a mystery. But Butcher goes to the brothel, and of course, Jack is there. The first thing he does is grabs Jack by the throat and says, why'd you kill my dog? Why'd you kill my dog, Jack? While he's doing this, shanking the ever-living shit out of his stomach. He opens the conversation with a knife in his belly. How? I thought Jack was invulnerable, only if he says the phrase. That's why Butcher's got his hand over there. He can't say anything. He's being choked out. And Jack is gutted. He has his guts flown to the floor. Now, Butcher never gives him a chance to say anything. Now, yeah, TV show Butcher does take out some soups in some pretty cruel ways, and this is his dead dog, so I can imagine him getting pretty upset about this. There's still levels of cruelty to this though. There's still levels of cruelty and sadism that just aren't really present in the show. Maybe because we still want to see him as a good guy or an anti-hero. Now, to compare it to Homelander, yeah, Homelander does this shit. He does this shit in the comics, he does this stuff in the TV show. But we're still at the same level. I guess the last one was more about how he treats people, and this one's more about how he murders. But he's still at the same level as Homelander. Let's start kicking that up a gear. Now let's look at The Boys issue 68. Billy Butcher has gone rogue from the rest of the team with a master plan, but we'll revisit that later. I don't want to touch on that quite yet. Long story short, the boys don't agree with what he's about to do. But Butcher's on a purge. Butcher's on a purge to get rid of anything that could get in the way of his plan. So he goes to the boys' office and he runs into Mother's Milk. Now he doesn't expect to run into MM. See, in the last issue, Billy had killed MM's ex-wife. Now in the comics, it's a very different ex-wife to what we get in the show. She deserved it in the comics, but he also does this in front of MM's daughter. Now, that's MM's business. And he's feeling a certain type of way about it. There's tension there outside of just, hey, I don't agree with what you're about to do with your master plan. That was not cool. So to Butcher's credit, he does give MM one more chance to walk away from all this. Butcher knows his best friend well enough to know that he's not going to take this lying down though. They get into a scuffle and it's a brutal one. They're throwing punches, they're throwing fights, they're throwing each other. It's not great for them, but it does result in the following dialogue. MM says, why the fuck you gotta do this? Why you gotta be the way that you are? You think I fucking want this shit, goddammit? Butcher responds with, I know. You're the best mate a cunt like me could hope for. I don't deserve to fucking know you. He then pulls a grenade. He pulls a grenade and shoves it right into MM's face, right down his gullet, blows off 2 of his fingers, and yeah, fucks Mother's Milk's face up. Mother's Milk has no eyes, his face is decimated, his jaw's hanging open, he's not making it out of this one alive, he is done for. But Butch has to get a bit more personal. He leaves MM with these last words, but I ain't got no mates, as he puts a hand over his mouth and blocks his airways, holding him until he dies. Now I did want to break down this issue because this is a much more personal kill. This is when the stakes start to elevate. This is when he's starting to take out his peers. But in the next issue, he does also leave a bomb off to the side for Frenchie and the female and kills them as well. So you can already see the difference between the show and the comic in terms of Billy Butcher, because in the show, yeah, he might go against the boys. He wrestles with his loyalty and his friendship with Huey, MM, Kimiko, and Frenchie. See, Comic Butcher has no such conflict. As soon as his ideology is questioned, he exterminates his friends. No questions asked. Casually. This is like it was all a part of the plan. Actually, it probably was. This is where I think Butcher starts to get worse than Homelander, because yeah, Homelander doesn't treat his peers well, but these are people Butcher got along with. These are people that are his best friends. Yes, okay, in the show, Homelander does kill the first Black Noir. Yeah, but that's like a crime of passion. That's second-degree murder. That's not meditated. Whereas Butcher, wants to do this. He at least planned to take out Frenchie and the female. So this is all a part of the plan. It's cold, and he formed these connections with these people knowing that this would be the outcome. Okay, let's go to the fourth issue we're looking at today, The Boys issue 70. This Boys series ends at issue 72, so this is right as everything's starting to get crazy. But I do need to give you some context. Homelander's been dead for a while. The last arc of this series is Billy Butcher being the bad guy. If that doesn't prove my point. No, we're trying to compare the two. Okay, alright, hold on. Let's add a little bit more context. You know the master plan that I mentioned from the last issue that the boys weren't super chill with. What was Butcher's key motivation through all this? His motivation was Homelander killed Becca. Well, when Homelander died, he found out that was actually Black Noir. Whatever, Black Noir and Homelander both died in that issue. That issue should be over. See, Homelander wanted power and control, and that failed, and his plan failed. That should be the end of the comic. That should be the end of Butcher's story. Homelander's in the ground. The person responsible for the murder of his wife, in the ground. Superhero communities are failing. There has been a shift in the public. Butcher and the boys have won. The rest of the boys are pretty chill with this result, and yet Butcher still won't stop. His plan that I've been hinting at is to take some dodgy Russian compound V and weaponize it, basically killing everyone with V in their bloodstream. So yeah, Homelander might have hinted at a genocide. I know the show's sort of steering that way with everything that happened in Gen V, but Homelander sort of still just wants control. Butcher explicitly wants and acts towards a genocide. In this issue, we have the Seven disbanded or dead. We have the boys dead, and we have Huey going to confront Butcher and put an end to all this madness. And then Butcher explains his plans for mass murder like this, very casually and with a smile. He says, "I've been thinking about doing this for ages. Had half an idea someone ought to have a chance at sticking a spanner in the works. It ain't the sort of thing you do lightly, wiping out a good chunk of the human race. I've already got that feeling I get sometimes whenever I really go for it. Like I'm somewhere else watching it happen. Like I'm somewhere else watching it happen" is also the same line that he said to Jack from Jupiter as he was torture killing him. So this is a theme that I don't want you to think is disconnected, because we'll get into it, but Butcher is still very present. Also within this speech, he does openly admit that this is a good chunk of the human race. He doesn't call them soups here. For one of the first times in the series, he understands that there's collateral. And that's exactly what Huey calls him on it. Huey words this perfectly, because this is what Huey responds with. "Oh, well, that's pure dead brilliant, that is. I'll have to tell the security fella at the Flatiron that, if they ever manage to dig him out. And the boy was driving past, got blinded, and the lassie lost both her legs. There you go, even at 5 AM there's collateral. The city's Lego and the people are toys. You sound like a fucking supervillain." See, TV Butcher doesn't behave like this. He still sees the use for some soups. Kimiko aside, his son, Ryan, he has humanity there. He would never risk Ryan's life. Comic Butcher's humanity is completely gone. It doesn't exist. He sees annihilation over peace, where Homelander rationalizes power. He wants the ultimate power, whereas Butcher wants extinction, really living up to his name. Alright, so that's the Boys series done, but we still have one more issue to look at. It's from the 2020 sequel. We're looking at issue 6 from The Boys, Dear Becky. Now, this picks up 12 years later, with Annie and Huey having escaped to Scotland after the series of The Boys, and they're looking to, get married and start a family or whatever. And Huey gets a package in the mail. His long past, his traumatic experience with the boys, and Butcher in particular. Spoiler, Huey was the one that had to kill Butcher at the end of the series to stop this master plan of genocide that he wanted to unleash on the world. But this package Huey gets, it's a diary. It's a diary addressed from Butcher to Becca, his dead wife. And it's written after Becca's death. So it's him going through some adventures that he's had, before the Boys series picks up and during the Boys series picks up. But most importantly, it goes into his state of mind. It has internal thoughts that he wouldn't really vocalize to anyone else. Now, I just want to bubble this all back down. What were the Butcher's motivations for genocide again? It was Becca, wasn't it? Homelander's dead, but he could still hate soups, This is all to do with Becca. Well, throughout this series we get a couple reveals, but the biggest one is in issue 6. Let me read it out. In this diary, Butcher admits, Mallory hasn't got a clue. He sticks up photos up on his notice board and says, right boys, here's the latest. And we go through the whole routine, and sooner or later, we take him to bits, one way or another. None of it matters. Whatever's going inside Vought don't make no difference because they're just not going nowhere. Neither does making a mess of a few suits because there'll always be more of the bastards. This is what I've been on about, love. I do know how to make a difference, but to do it, I've got to get rid of you. I've been cheating on you every minute since you died, love, because I've been using you as an excuse for what I want to do, but the stuff inside me, I want to let loose. That you wouldn't be able to stand. You're the one who lost a life, and I'm doing what I'm doing for me. The mainline series of The Boys and TV show has Becca as the tether of Butcher to his humanity. I mean, less so the show because Becca is alive for a part of it, but Butcher still has humanity though. This version of Butcher, the comic version of Butcher, his tether was severed long ago. Becca was the only thing keeping him human for a little bit, but he was always meant to be this monster that was going to justify his own tragic story. Becca held him down for a little bit, but it just gave him more fuel to the fire, made him more honed, made him more of a weapon, because he rewrote his own tragedy to justify a genocide that he already wanted to happen. This completely dismantles the myth of the tragic avenger, of the anti-hero, of the little guy being trampled by big powered soups like Homelander. This is completely isolated evil, and he chose this evil not as a means to end, but because this is who Butcher is. Across all of these moments, the dehumanization of the female, the torture of Jack from Jupiter, killing of his team, the continuation of his mission through genocide after Homelander's death, and then his confession in Dear Becky. Billy's mask of purpose finally slips. Every act just strips away any justification or revenge plot Butcher might have had. All we're really left with is cruelty disguised as principles. See, Homelander is evil in both the show and the comic, but it was born from manipulation. He was built to be that way. He was driven to madness. Now, that's not justifiable. He is the bad guy. But Butcher's was a conscious choice. By the end of the comics, Butcher isn't the man who fought with monsters. He proved that if you chase vengeance, you can become worse than the monsters you seek to destroy.